Hi all, thanks so much for joining. I'm excited today to have 3 of Dremio's customers to chat about their use cases of Dremio, as well as future-looking statements with respect to the Dremio's release that just came out April 8th. I'm so excited to have Antonio Abisad of Sodexo, Carl Smolka of TD Securities, Mark Sear of Maersk, and Tomer Shiran, our own founder of Dremio. Thanks all for joining.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Great. With that, we're going to jump into a series of questions that'll be addressed both generally and specifically to each of our participants, as well as times we'll have Tomer chime in too. And we are going to dive right in with the first question, which is a general question for all of our customers on this call. Would love to hear from each of you, what were your main data challenges that led your organization to initially consider Dremio?
I'll jump in, chaps, if you like to get it going. So for me, it was data silos. For us, we have a large legacy estate, and we have sort of data splattered around our organization. And really, the first challenge we wanted to solve was making that data accessible to people. If it's accessible, people can use it. So that was really the first thing that Dremio helped us with, was accessibility.
I can jump in. So I think it's similar to what Carl was just mentioning here, but just to understand also better, I would like just to also maybe explain where the data evolved within Sodexo, and to understand this currently Sodexo it is in food and facility management. So it's a world leader in sustainable food and facility management. And I'm saying this because it's about 80 million consumer per day. So why it's important is to understand that data is created and consumed everywhere within Sodexo. And as Carl was mentioning, one of our challenge is as we are present in 45 different countries, we have also siloed everywhere with different technology. And one of our challenges was to hide all this complexity to all the users of data, being citizen users, data analysts, data science, etc., and to be able to provide them a kind of one semantic layer, one same understanding of the business data. And this is the main reason, yes, why we have thought about using Dremio. So the first year was mainly to put the foundation, one semantic layer for global, but also one semantic layer per region, all seen as one global semantic layer. And now we have about more than 500 data assets that are in production and using all the same common language worldwide within the 45 countries with about more than 200 data citizens. And it's growing really fast. So adopting all the same language through the same semantic layer.
Nice. Well, my go, I guess. So the first thing I would say is that, intriguingly enough, Sodexo features in the most popular query that we're using at the moment, which is on an HR system we've implemented. And the question is, where do I find my Sodexo card, and how do I charge my Sodexo card? So you're a bit famous in Maersk. They're going to love that when that comes out. We started off only intending to use Dremio in one small use case, and I think it's a tribute to how well it acted in that small use case that we now have 5,000 users at least executing millions of reports a day, absolutely millions of reports a day. And I think at a guess, we've got somewhere in the region of, we use tables rather than data sets because it's an easy level that we all understand, somewhere in the region of 25,000 tables now in Dremio. And it started off as, what can we use for some core data sets or one particular area? And it's now kind of has grown organically and successfully as well. So super happy with what we've seen so far. Doesn't mean we're excited or we're less excited about the future. And in fact, the release after this one is the one that I'm super excited about when we get more Gen AI. But it's a great product for what we've done.
Perfect. I appreciate all of those answers, and thank you for giving me the lead into talking more about this release. I would love to pose the question around, since you've implemented Dremio for your Intelligent Lakehouse platform, what's been the most significant way it has enabled your organization to create or be ready to create those AI-ready data products, or empowered your business users in AI agents with better data access. And I'm going to go ahead and pass this to TD Securities if you guys want to chat about this first.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I might repeat myself here a little bit, but the most important thing was getting access for many people, and I think one of the big things that Dremio has in its bone is the self-service mentality around things. So we, like many people, as a technologist, we get inundated with, requests. Can we have this report? Can we have this? Can we have that? And, I think we're all starting to realize that sort of centralized model of pushing everything through a central IT team is just not scalable. So for us, leveraging the sort of self-service sort of mindset has been a huge enabler. So, we have a pretty strong data strategy when it comes to sort of adopting things like domain-orientated data sets and that sort of stuff, and sort of modern data management principles. But it doesn't mean much if people can't get hold of that data and can't get access to it themselves without having to have sort of long, arduous conversations with your IT department. So whilst I think Dremio has played via that sort of accessibility and sort of the democratization of data, that has really allowed us to get our sort of AI-ready data products out there to the masses. And the more people you get using data, the better the quality becomes, and the more it can become a standard across the organization.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Carl. Appreciate your input there. Antonio or Mark, do you guys have anything to add to that?
I wanted to illustrate the answer to this question by an example. The example is the complexity and how to tackle within Sodexo the complexity of our diverse point of sales system. Because in each country, we have different point of sales. And each point of sales has its own data model. Okay. So one of the problems we had is how we are able to have a common language on all these different point of sales in the different countries. And this is what Dremio has allowed us to do by having one semantic layer through one unique core data model. And by having this, I mean, the win that we had is to connect all these point of sales only once and then being able to reuse multiple times, because we were able to connect to this unique semantic layer. So the unique point of sale semantic layer, we were able to connect all our artificial intelligence product, but all our analytics. And as Carl was mentioning just right now, we are able to enable also all the self-service analytic through the same semantic layer. So this is a real win that we had, and it has allowed us to resolve this kind of point of sale system diversity problem.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Antonio. Mark, I'm going to use your excitement around our latest release to cue us into our next section. And I'd love if you could answer a quick question. So we are really excited about our latest release, obviously. It went live on April 8th, and it really focuses on intelligent automation. And how do you see capabilities around intelligent automation, such as autonomous reflections and others that we released, addressing pain points in your current data architecture and organization?
Wow, long question, short answer. It will save us time and money. I think one of the things that people have to understand, everybody talks the same language. You could replace me, you couldn't replace Antonio and Carl, of course, with very easily, but you could replace me easily with somebody who's going to say similar things. But most people tend to focus on the technology. We tend to think more and are trying to think more actively about the business. What does it mean to our business to have faster, more stable, more accurate reporting, more accurate insights, faster insights? What it means is they can make more profit. We, IT, tech, most people on this call are cost centers. We're cost centers. We don't make much money, or if anything, for the business. We're a cost center. Our job is to serve the users better. And I think that the latest release, which we're kind of cautious, we normally take a couple of weeks before we put anything out there, is going to lower our total cost of ownership, increase our service levels, and make data easier and faster to get for the users. For me, that's a sweet spot. And yeah, that's it.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Antonio, I'm going to pass the next question to you. And, data discovery really remains a significant challenge for many organizations. How would AI-enabled semantic search impact your team's ability to find and leverage existing data assets within your data environment?
Yeah, so I confirm. So we are waiting for the functionality. Because we think it could be a kind of game changer for us. So it's quite critical. So why saying this? Because currently, I mean, we are using kind of metadata search engine, which is in place, so simply searching through the tag, existing tag, etc. When in reality, what we are expecting from this new capability, the semantic AI search, semantic new functionality, it's being able to go beyond the simple keyword matching. And for us, it means a lot. So for example, imagine, we have an account manager that is preparing for its client meeting. It means that we might now, currently he's navigating through multiple dashboards and he's navigating through different requests, asking questions and so on. When potentially what we could have with this new functionality is having this kind of account manager directly asking the question, show me all the data points for this site, this precise site, for example. And what we are expecting is this new feature to understand what means a precise site, and then being able to provide all the views, all the information that exists through the different views and through the semantic layer on this specific site. So imagine the business value that it could provide. It's a lot. This is an example, but we can have also other examples. For example, for a data governance standpoint, for a data governance, for it's really important for the data governors to understand, for example, what are the data that exist within its country. Okay, what is the data that is available within the country, with which kind of quality, etc. And here again, for example, the data governance could ask the question, give me all the data that exists for Germany. And we are expecting from this new feature, even without having to tag everything, to be able to understand what Germany means and being able to provide this kind of information. And last but not least, here again, to provide another example, for example, for a data analyst, is to be able to understand, for example, here again, on a specific context, to be able to understand the overall, for example, information that are required for a point of sales or for a site, by just having to ask a question, and he's going to be, and we were expecting from this new feature to be able to search automatically and through intelligent way on the different views, but on the different rows, on the different columns, and being able to understand what is requested and to provide all the kind of information. So this is a kind of feature that this is a kind of answers that we are business answers that we are expecting from this new feature.
That's amazing. It sounds like it makes things a lot simpler and eliminates a ton of complexity that you guys are looking to simplify. Awesome. So we've heard some great examples here. I want to shift this now to Tomer for a question. Could you please briefly explain how the intelligent automation in this Dremio's most recent release represents a shift in how organizations can approach data architecture?
Yeah, well, if you think about at the end of the day, enabling self-service and enabling organizations to scale with their analytics, it's about eliminating that dependency on kind of a central data team or central IT team for every single action that an analyst or a data scientist wants to do. And that starts from getting access to data to understanding what the data means to optimizing the performance of these data sets, right? And if you can achieve that kind of a self-service where people can do all these things on their own, right? Well, then you can also get to that next level where an AI agent can also do things on their own, right? Because an AI agent at the end of the day is not going to be good at going and bugging somebody in the next cubicle, or searching the wiki to figure out what does this really mean, or going and calling somebody else, right? Eventually they will, but for now we need to focus on kind of enabling that automation and that self-service. And in this new release of Dremio, what we've done is we've introduced autonomous reflections, which is a key capability in Dremio for a while has been something called reflections, which accelerate queries. They automatically, or they when a new query comes in, the system can automatically take advantage of existing aggregations or pre-materialized joins and things like that. Well, with this new release, we automatically figure out what are the right aggregations to pre-create and what are the right joins and different sorting orders and so forth to pre-create. And we do that by understanding and analyzing the query log. So as new queries are coming in, we understand what are the workloads, what's common, what's not common, what's important. And then we automatically figure out through these learning algorithms how to and what to calculate in advance, so that when a user comes in, they can get 100 times faster performance on their BI dashboards. They can get drastically faster performance on their ad hoc workloads, and all of that is entirely automatic. There's no need for a central team to understand these different workloads, to go and talk to every single user of the platform. And as you heard on this call, many of our customers have thousands of users using the platform. And so, of course, it's unrealistic for that central team to even understand what people are doing with the data. What kind of queries are they running? What data sets do they have? The system, in order to achieve this kind of self-service and in order to empower this new era of AI agents, the system has to understand these things on its own. And that's really what we've released as part of this new release of Dremio.
And if I may just reacting also on your point, Thomas, because I think quite interesting here, because I've also forgotten to mention that what we are also expecting is to reduce the number of dashboard and report, because right now users are creating report everywhere, every time. When here what we are expecting is to change the way our users and our business interact with the data. So instead of creating new dashboard, we think that here they will be able just to interact directly with the data. It will facilitate, it will change the way they interact on the day-to-day.
It's a paradigm shift. I think you're right. It's an absolute paradigm shift. If I take our organization, we have, if you take, it is a known fact, I think, that if you take a Power BI dashboard, exactly, and you show it to two people, it begets the creation of three more Power BI. It's like employing a McKinsey consultant. It's
not necessary in reality.
And if there's any McKinsey people watching it, and other companies can apply to that as well. And I think for the first time, we'll start to see, I truly believe, a shrinking number of dashboards. Exactly what Antonio just said, that it will shrink because people will say, I no longer need to take vast aggregations of data, put them into the cube in the hope that one day I might need one of the 2 trillion calculations I've just made. They'll reverse that and say, I will get the answers to the questions I want in the right time. It's a paradigm shift, and it's super.
And I think on top of this, go ahead, sorry.
Especially considering that each time, in fact, even if you think it's the same question that you want to ask, and this is why we are building report and second, third report, etc. When in reality, I mean, the salesperson or the data analyst each time has a different question.
Yes. Yeah, it's about a chain of thought. And for me, it's about freedom as well. I often speak to people in the front line, and the worst thing for them is they are constrained. If you take a cube, you're constrained. The questions you can ask sit in a little cube, and that's it. You can't suddenly say, oh, I've just been thinking, what about X? This will finally allow that. The combination, particularly when AI comes more into it, AI agents, your chain of thought is going to be amazing. I mean, I've got ADHD, so it's going to be wonderful for me. Absolutely wonderful. It's a game changer. So
definitely.
And I think one of the other things we've released as part of this release is an MCP interface that basically wraps up all of these capabilities, from the semantic search to the automation to being able to query and the semantic layer. And that enables any AI agent to interact with all these different pieces of the platform and to get the answers automatically, right? So you can envision the AI agent, and it could be something as simple as, the Claude desktop chatbot, right? Or the ChatGPT chatbot, or, some IDE that's AI enabled like Cursor or Windsurf or one of these tools, basically being able to integrate that information that's in Dremio and starting with semantic search, even just finding the data sets that maybe the user is asking about or could potentially answer the question that's being discussed, right? And all the way to running the query. And of course, in the back end, the system now is using the AI-powered kind of reflection automation, the autonomous reflections, to make sure everything is fast, right? Because the agent, at the end of the day, they're not going to go talk to the data team and tell them, hey, this query is too slow, and then have the data team go and say, oh, we're create a different data set that's pre-aggregated or a cube, and why don't you go use that thing? That's still too complicated for the agent, and it creates a whole set of other problems like you described, where you have this like proliferation of like assets and tables and dashboards and everything. We don't want to go there, right? We want this fully automated process in the background that's entirely transparent to both human users and to AI agents.
And can I just add one more thing? Where this gets super exciting is when the agent itself can then think of the next question to pass into an agentic flow and maybe go out and look at some contract documentation on the basis of what it sees coming back from a purely structured query. That's where the whole thing it's just going to be so wonderful. I can't.
Completely. And Mark, you're definitely leading into our next section. Before we get into our industry trends and future direction, I do want to put one more question out there, Carl, especially to you. For those of you operating in a hybrid environment, how valuable is deployment flexibility across on-prem and cloud environments?
Well, I would say if we didn't have that, or if Dremio didn't have that flexibility, we probably wouldn't be using it today. Working in a very, very heavily regulated industry. So TD Security is now something called a GSIP, so we're of globally systemic importance. It means that we have to operate in a pretty tight control environment. And what that sometimes means is that sometimes getting our hands on the bleeding edge or the new technologies there can be a bit of a lag time associated with that. So, having the flexibility to do things on-prem and then necessarily move to the cloud when certain capabilities are ready has been invaluable for us. So, having that flexibility, not every customer is going to be the same. But for us, we started our journey sort of playing around on-prem. As things matured within the organization, we've since then moved that all to cloud, and we're now starting to think about our multi-cloud journey as well as that matures.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Jumping back now into these industry trends and future direction, I'd love to open the floor up to all three of you and ask, what do you see as the top priorities on the horizon for your industry in the next 1 to 2 years? We can start off here with Antonio.
Well, I'll answer simply. What the tendency, it's data centricity, because what we see is we hope and we expect the company to become full data centric by within the next 2 years, because we are all talking about agent AI and we are talking about artificial intelligence, etc. But all this will not be possible if the data is not there. If the data is not on the right data quality and it is not governed correctly within a core data model, etc., with the right awareness everywhere within all the company. So I would say simply that the tendency is within the 2 years. I think we need to be data centric to be able to take advantage of all these trends that are now available for us, and meaning having the right foundation with the right semantic layers, the same language, in order to be able to rely and accelerate on the agentic AI, also agent talking to other agent, MCP, etc. So I'll keep it simple and back to basic, which is having the foundation strong and being data-centric.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Carl, we'll pass it to you. What are the top priorities on the horizon for your industry?
For the whole industry, I think it's probably the same for most industries, to be honest, when it comes to data. I think we're all coming to the realization that having a sort of data first mindset isn't going to be a nice to have going forward. It's going to be table stakes. And, I think when we take a step back and look at how do you drive that sort of organizational change, it's way more than just technology for us. It's about how do you change people, processes, everything within the organization to think differently. I remember when we first sort of did our internal pitch for our sort of modernization program, and the feedback that we got from our COO at the time was that a lot of this was very esoteric. As technologists, we like the details, we like all the acronyms and that sort of stuff. But it's a journey that the whole organization has to go on to. What is a data product? What is a semantic layer? This is all stuff that you have to treat. You have to. There's an element of literacy, is what I'm saying to this as well. So, I think organizations outside of the technology, they have a real journey on their hands around thinking about how they restructure and drive that change, not just inside of the technology, but the people, the processes of their company as well. So, I think it's clear it's table stakes going forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark, any thoughts?
Well, I've got two thoughts, as you may imagine. Well, the first one is in our industry, which is logistics, we'd like to have a little bit of consistency with tariffs because that affects us massively. So if you've got a line to Donny, if you could give him a ring, it would be great. And the second is about our industry in general. And I'll butcher the French language, so I apologize. The French saying, I believe, is plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose, which, apologies for Antonio. The more things change, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I think having been in this business for data basically for 35, 40 years now, data quality has always been a problem. It's coming back again, guys. It's going to get worse and amplified with AI. Lifelong learning has always been a thing of mine. It's going to be the same, exactly as Carl said. It's about becoming literate with data, knowing how to use it, understanding how to ask the right questions. What people forget when they get a Power BI cube or something is it's a pre-chewed question. There's no real intellect required to use them. It's a pre-chewed question. Now you're going to have the ability to take your brain, your data insights, and really leverage it. And then the third thing I think is going to be really interesting is going to be leadership. We need people to be data leaders, not just at a senior level, a very senior level, but at my level. And every single person needs to be a data leader to fight for data, to fight for its role in the organization. I can say I'm 60 years old at the moment, 61 in August. There has never been a more exciting time to be in tech than now. We're about to see all of the dreams that we had for data, even going back to 1999, the dreams we had for data are about to be realized. The singularity is coming, and it's just a wonderful time to be both in data, in tech.
It'll be interesting, Mark, to see if in the next few years we see a CEO of a really big firm as a data leader. Like, can we think of, I think it's coming, right? We're going to see these massive organizations. Yeah.
I think you remember years ago when they first came out with like Siri or whatever, they did the demo. Somebody would get up and say, hey, what's the weather like in Boston today? I think you genuinely now will be in a position where your CEO will get up and say, what did the company do in sales in blah, blah, blah yesterday? I'm on my way to meet the CEO of that region. Tell me exactly the questions I need to ask him. And he or she, indeed, could be a she, is going to get those exact answers right to his phone, her phone, their phone. And I think you're right. The game is changed. The game is afoot, as Sherlock Holmes said.
It's really an exciting time, honestly. Tomer, I'd love to turn it to you. Obviously, we've had some great insights on, what trends we're seeing from our three customers. You talk to a lot of our customers and people across industries. Any other trends you'd like to mention here?
Well, I think the big one for me is the maturity of organizations with respect to AI has progressed a lot in the last year, right? So I'd say, maybe a year or two ago, it was really just playing around, trying to understand what it is, what's possible, right? Then it went to kind of simple applications. If you think about AI being able to do, summarization, entity extraction, translation, sentiment analysis, combining that with workflows such as RAG, right, where you're searching for data and then using these types of things on that data. Those are pretty simple applications, didn't fundamentally change kind of the business or what's possible, right? Didn't transform industries. But now with the rise of agents, right, which is really powered by the ability of these LLMs to reason, right? These new models that can kind of think through in multiple steps and take actions using a variety of tools and get data from systems. That's really going to change the game. And I'm, to the point that it will transform, I think, every industry. And I think organizations now are realizing that everybody has started kind of this race to, what is the right data platform to really power all of these different agents that need to be built, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, these LLMs, they're out there. I can get one with a credit card and without a lot of money, but unless it's tied to my data as a company, it's not very valuable, right? It's maybe great at solving homework questions for my kids, but so what is that data platform? What does it need to look like in order for me to be able to build all these different agents that I need in an enterprise in order to be competitive with the world that will exist, 5 years from now or 10 years from now? I think everybody's understanding that and kind of racing towards that goal now.
Can I add one thing to that? And I think it's something you're too modest to say, which is I think that you're spot on. But the crucial thing is that platform has to be open because no one knows who the winner is going to be.
Yeah.
And no one knows I believe we sit on the edge of exponential. So at the moment, we've kind of done that bit of the curve with LLMs and AI, and we're about to do that. That is the dangerous time for anything, when it goes exponential. If you've locked yourself into a proprietary catalog, something that isn't open, something that says everything has to go through our file format, etc., I think you're going to play yourself into deep trouble, because the world isn't going to hang around for one company. It's going to be very different than in the past.
Yep.
Well, we truly are at a turning point with a lot in our industry, and it's exciting times, as we've mentioned. Closing out here, I do want to, ask you guys for your advice for customers and other companies that are considering that intelligent lakehouse journey to be ready for all of these, changes and variables that you've talked about. What advice would you give to these organizations as they are starting that journey? Antonio, I'll go ahead and start with you on this.
Yeah, I can start. So I think the advices are multiple one. It's not one advice, but first one could be to focus first on the business problem. So it's all about business problem first, okay? But also I would advise really to have quick wins. So to avoid the kind of tunnel effect, okay? So to have a quick win and to balance the investment on the foundation with the investment of business use case, because usually what happens is you just focus on the business use case, but business use case without the right data quality, the right semantic layer, the right core data model, we can say it's kind of hallucination, because you're going to do a kind of pilot, and when you want to deploy the pilot, you will have difficulty because the data quality is not good. You don't have pattern, you don't have semantic layer. Okay, so balance the investment between use case, business use case, and foundational investment. I would say also to invest from the beginning on the right team, the right resource, having the right skills from the beginning, and to have one framework of work. For example, in Sodexo, we have chosen the SAFe methodology that we are using everywhere, but I think it's important to have same ways of working, because when we are talking about Dremio, when we are talking about that data platform, at the end, we are talking about a common platform. So when you have different teams that has to work on the same platform, it's important that they have the same framework from the beginning. And I would say also a kind of advice is to think the platform as kind of with a kind of global governance, with regional autonomy, meaning empowering the most possible data citizen, data analyst, data scientist to be autonomous, to not become a kind of bottleneck, as Tomer was saying, having a kind of central team becoming a kind of bottleneck on the platform.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Carl, on to you. Any advice?
I mean, every organization is different, but I would say one thing that I think will hold true is, and I'm going to repeat myself again a little bit, is it's not just about the tech. Don't forget about people, processes, all of that. Data strategy is made up of people, processes, technology as well. It's not just one thing. As technologists, think about your operating model. How are you rolling out this platform across your organization? Literacy, how are you driving that change? All of that has to go in hand for your technology platform to be successful. And I would say, lastly, you're rolling out great technology. Do whatever you can to reduce that barrier for adoption. Be relentless in your ability to automate things. You want people to get onto your platform with as little effort as possible, right? You want to, back to our old days stories about going through that centralized IT team. You've got to get away from that methodology and get to that point where people can just help themselves. And I think, the key word I like from this release is autonomous. Anything that allows us to focus on the actual value add of our strategy and not the noise around it. Perfect. That's what we need. But yeah, data strategy, my advice is more than just tech. Think about the people, the process, and the change of your organization. Have you got the right champions in place? Have you got the right executive support? That sort of stuff there as well. So, the tech's the fun bit, but don't forget about the other stuff as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And last but certainly not least, Mark, any thoughts and advice here?
Listen, I think the other two guys have covered it, or the other three guys have covered it amazingly. The only thing I would possibly add is to think about where you sit you as an individual, and I address here the data engineers, the people out there, the people actually doing the grunt work, the people whose lives this affects. Think of what happened during the agricultural revolution. There were a lot of people crafting bits of food and chopping down little bits of corn or whatever. I'm not a farmer, so I probably got the words all wrong. But there were a lot of people doing that. It was a huge industry. And then along came somebody who invented the seed drill and the combine harvester. And then all of a sudden, there were a lot less people working on the land. Well, guess what? AI has just invented the seed drill and the combine harvester for data. Think about yourself. Think about your company. Think about where you add value. Generate value, and you will survive the new revolution.
That was a great conversation. We've heard a ton today, and I really want to stop here and thank all of our speakers. First, from Dremio, Tomer, and JRJ for their great product and customer insights. And then for our speakers, Antonio Abisad from Sodexo, Carl Smolka from TD Securities, Mark Sear from Maersk, and Chris Child from Snowflake. It is truly a treat to get to hear so many great perspectives. Today we've learned a lot. We've talked about how Dremio accelerates AI and analytics with autonomous performance, unified data, and AI-ready data products. We've learned about how eliminating technical complexity and resource waste through intelligent automation, Dremio empowers teams to innovate rather than maintain, while also improving data quality and governance the whole time. There's so much more to learn, and I look forward for all of you to join our data deep dives continuing forward, starting Tuesday, May 6th with the Autonomous Performance with Dremio session. Try Dremio free today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for joining.